When we talk about relationships, we tend to always focus on the titles, the label, the duties. But what we miss is there are so many kinds of relationships that fill our souls in different ways. That's where I come in, to fill you up in ways you weren't even ready for. Welcome back to Hera Unveiled. I'm your host, Susie Q, and today we're starting a new adventure into something we will all experience on some levels. Relations are one of the universal knowns that we navigate daily, sometimes without even thinking about it. We'll cross so many topics around types, myths, changes, and how sexual wellness fits into it on multiple levels. So buckle up, we're going to get real deep. Let's start with monogamy. Now, I don't mean to overgeneralize here, but this one is considerably the most common. But where did monogamy actually come from? Not whether it's right or wrong, or whether everyone should practice it, but where did the idea originate, and how did it become the relationship model that so many of us inherited without question? If you spent any time in conversations about love, dating, marriage, sexuality, or desire, you've probably heard someone say that monogamy is natural. Someone will insist that it's unnatural. Someone will claim it's religious. Someone will say it's biological. It's more complicated than any of that. When we look at human history, we discover that monogamy wasn't created in a single moment. There wasn't one tribe, one religion, one king who decided that everyone should pair off forever and that's it. Human beings have always experimented with many different relationship structures throughout history. Some cultures practice monogamy. Others practice polygamy, where one man had multiple wives. Some practiced polyandry, where one woman had multiple husbands. Many cultures embrace relationship models that don't fit neatly into our modern categories at all. What researchers have found is that humans are incredibly adaptive. We have always shaped our relationships according to the needs, values, and circumstances of the societies that we live in. So if monogamy wasn't simply invented one day, why did it become so common? One scientific theory points to something surprisingly practical. Babies. Human babies are remarkably helpless compared to most animal babies. A newborn deer can stand within the first few hours. A newborn human can't even hold up its own head. Our children require years of protection, feeding, teaching, and emotional support. Because of this, many evolutionary researchers believe that pair bonding became advantageous. Two adults working together had a better chance of helping their children survive than one parent carrying this burden alone. From this perspective, monogamy wasn't initially about romance. It wasn't about soulmates. It wasn't about grand love stories. It was about cooperation, survival, increasing odds that the next generation would thrive. That's kind of fascinating. So much of modern love is wrapped in fantasy, yet some of the earliest foundations of partnership are deeply practical. That doesn't mean that humans evolved to be perfectly monogamous, because we're not. Many anthropologists suggest that humans are natural pair bonding creatures, not necessarily creatures of strict lifelong inclusivity, which might explain why human beings experience both deep attachment and ongoing attraction. Why we crave security and novelty. Why commitment and desire sometimes feel like dance partners and sometimes feel like opponents. It's not necessarily evidence that something is wrong with us. It may simply be evidence that human nature is more nuanced than we've been taught. And then we arrive at religion. Many people assume that religion is what created monogamy. Human pair bonds existed long before organized religion. In fact, many ancient religious traditions allowed forms of multiple relationships. Ancient Hebrews practiced it, many Islamic societies permitted it. Numerous indigenous and traditional cultures around the world recognized multiple forms of marriage and partnerships. What religion often did was not create monogamy, but institutionalize it. This is particular with Christianity. As Christianity spread throughout Europe, monogamous marriages became increasingly connected to ideas of mortality, virtue, family structure, inheritance, and social order. Over time, lifelong monogamy wasn't just a relationship choice, it became a cultural expectation, a moral standard, a symbol of being a good person. This is where I think many of us inherit beliefs that we never consciously examined. When something becomes embedded in culture for hundreds and hundreds of years, it starts to feel like a universal truth. We stop asking, where did this come from? We stop asking, who does this benefit? We stop asking whether we're choosing this intentionally, and that brings us to the spiritual lens, because spirituality asks a completely different question entirely. Science asks us what helps humans survive. Religion often asks what maintains social order. Spirituality asks what helps the soul evolve. Within many spiritual traditions, monogamy is viewed as a sacred container. Not because exclusivity is inherently superior, but because deep commitment can become a powerful path of transformation. When you stay with someone long enough, eventually they become a mirror. They reflect your wounds, your fears, your defenses, your unmet needs, your capacity to love, your capacity to receive love. Your shadows become more visible, and so do theirs. From this perspective, monogamy isn't about possession. It's devotion. It's remaining present when illusion fades and real work begins. Not all spiritual traditions view monogamy in the same way. Traditional Tantra, for example, focus less on the exclusivity and more on conscious connection. The emphasis wasn't on having only one partner. The emphasis was on presence, awareness, energetic intimacy, sacred relationship with oneself and others. Many modern conscious relationship communities continue to ask different questions altogether. Instead of asking, is this relationship monogamous? They ask, is this relationship conscious? Honestly, I think this is where things get interesting, because whether you're monogamous, non-monogamous, married, dating, single, exploring, healing, or rediscovering yourself after years of partnership, the deeper question here isn't necessarily about your structure. It's about awareness. Are you choosing your relationships consciously? Or are you just following a script that was handed to you? Because there's a profound difference. One is inheritance. The other is intention. One can be viewed as compliance, and the other viewed as a choice. From a modernized point, a question to really drive things home: are we asking monogamy to do too much? Historically, a spouse wasn't expected to be a best friend, co-parent, therapist, adventure partner, business partner, emotional support system, sexual soulmate, spiritual companion. Today, we often expect one person to fulfill all of these roles. That's a modern expectation. The challenge isn't commitment. Humans have been committing to each other for thousands of years. But the challenge here is abundance. We live in a time where we have more access, more choice, more emotional language, more self-awareness, more desire for depth, more craving of novelty, more pressure for perfection. And we're trying to funnel all of that through one person, one relationship. It's not that monogamy is broken. It's that the job description expanded without a conversation. Maybe the real work of modern love isn't how do I commit? It's How do I distribute my emotional, social, creative, and spiritual needs in a way that doesn't collapse my relationship under the weight of everything that is me? Maybe it's about building a life where your partner is a peer, not the entire architecture. Maybe it's about redefining the way we look at intimacy as something spacious, not singular. Maybe it's about remembering that love thrives when it is supported by community and friendship, creativity, self-connection, and autonomy, not when we're asking people to carry the entire world. Whew. Sorry, got a little heated there for a second. Let's tap into our bodies. Imagine you're standing in a room. In one hand is every belief you've inherited about love. Everything your parents have modeled, everything religions taught you, every culture rewarded, every heartbreak that convinced you it was true. And in the other hand is your lived experiences, your desires, needs, truths, boundaries, longings, fear. Now imagine placing both hands in front of you. We're not rejecting either one. We're not judging either one. Simply ask yourself, which of these beliefs are actually mine? Which ones have I chosen? And which ones have I been carrying for so long that I forgot to question why I have them? Conscious relationships aren't built on inherited rules. They're built on conscious choices. Over the years, I have faced a lot of scrutiny about my ideals of relationships and identity. As an openly polyamorous person, how can I not be biased? Did I even give monogamy a chance? Am I just feeding my trauma with sex and attention? I have been working through my own journey of sexual wellness, personal acceptance, and shadow work for so long that I no longer worry about my bias. My intention here is to learn, guide, and empower. I support choice. If your choice is monogamy, then that's the best choice for you. The invitation I want you to leave with today, if monogamy began partly as a survival strategy, if it was strengthened by religious institution, and if it can become a spiritual path when entered consciously, then what does monogamy mean to you? Not your parents, not your church, or your culture, or your friends. You. What are you actually choosing? And why? Because here on Hera Unveiled, we're not interested in following the scripts simply because they've existed for generations. We're interested in becoming conscious authors of our own lives, our own desires, and our own relationships. And sometimes that journey begins with a single question. Until next time, stay curious, play safely, and stay turned on.